And it's time for the 2017 People's Championship, showcasing the best talent in the Lehigh Valley in the sport of disc golf. This year we have Mike Moser amongst a field of players, and to see how everything shapes up, stay tuned as Disc Golf Monthly starts now. Hello and thank you for joining us for this month's edition of Disc Golf Monthly. This month's show takes us to Whitehall, PA at the Jordan Creek Disc Golf Course, where we're featuring coverage of the 2017 People's Championship. This tournament is being run by Mr. Disc Golf, Mike Solt, and it's on the Jordan Creek Disc Golf Course. This is a course that has a mixture of both open and wooded holes. There's some elevation changes on this hole, notably is Basket 10, which is known as Heart Attack Hill, and it also has some water with the Jordan Creek does come into play, as well as a pond hole on number 7. This course has concrete tees, and the players will be playing to DGM Mach 3 baskets. The weather is very comfortable today. It's clear skies, there's no wind to speak of, and just to get a look at some of the players that we'll be featuring today, let's just take a quick look and see who we have playing today. In first place, shooting a 48, we have Devin Frederick from Hellertown, PA. In second place, shooting a 49, we have Mike Moser from Wilmington, Delaware. Tied for second place is Dylan Horst from Phoenixville, PA. In fourth place, we have Mitch Radzi from Allentown, PA. And rounding out the group in fifth place, we have Mike Carmen from Ottsville, PA, shooting a 51. Well, it looks like we have a diverse group of players here with longtime local Devin Frederick and local powerhouse Mike Moser. We also have up-and-comers Dylan Horst and Mike Carmen, who have moved up to pro playing in about the past 2 years. But the most interesting player we've never seen before is Mitch Radzi. He's a local player, and he's moving up in the Lehigh scene. He's definitely one to watch here. So that's who we have rounding out here with the lead card in the second round. It's going to be an interesting group to watch, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be following round 2 with this group. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And we're back at the 2017 People's Championship at Jordan Creek. It's the start of round 2. And to start off, we have Devin Frederick leading 2 strokes over Mike Moser and Dylan Horst. We're going to start off on basket 3. This is a par 3. It's 339 feet. For a backhand thrower, you're going to go with a turnover shot. Looks like Devin's setting up the dough. And it's not going to get enough turn. He's going to get knocked down early. This favors a turnover shot. It's also favorable to sidearm throwers. Mike looks like he's setting up to throw a roller shot. And it's going to go nicely for him. It's going to heading towards a tennis court fence, which it does hit. Dylan's going to go with a sidearm. He gets it low. It's not going to stay in there long enough, though. And here is Mitch Radzi. He's a local player. He's going with a Turnover shot, he threaded that nicely. And that is what you need to do to get a nice drive with a backhand shot on this hole. Here's Mike Carmen. And he also has a fantastic drive. He could putt for a birdie with that. Here's Devin with his second shot. Devin keeps it low. He's going to skip towards the basket. He'll have to work to get his par with that. And Dylan just goes with another sidearm shot. Here's Mike. He just lays up. It's going to fade right under the basket. There's Devin going for three. He's par. It's just not going to stay in the air long enough. He'll have to settle for a bogey. There's Mitch. There's Dylan putting for par. And so with that, Dylan and Mike are tied with Devin now, as Devin can only manage a bogey rather, and they're all tied at 52 now. We're moving on to basket 4. This is a par 3 at 305 feet. This is a shot where it favors a backhand thrower. You just have to hold the line. Be careful of that tree. The basket is down to the left. Here's Dylan's tee shot. Dylan keeps that very low and very nicely. He gets some good distance after it hits the ground with that skip. Here's Mitch's drive. Mitch does all right as well. That looks like that could putt from where he is right now. And here's Mike Carmen with his first drive. He also keeps it low. That gets him relatively close to the basket. Here's Devin with his drive. And Devin gets unlucky. He goes right at that tree. Here he is putting out from that vegetation. He's just going to approach, try to get his par. It's a rocky start for Devin. Here's Mike. Looks like he was going for it there. Here's Mitch with his birdie shot. And that was close. And here's Mike Carmen. He has to be careful of that tree. Looks like he's going to go for it as well. Floats it out there, just drops a little too early for him. Here's Dylan. He's trying to get going for his birdie. And Dylan just gets a little too much turn. It goes pretty far beyond the basket. Now he's got to putt back to the basket for par. And he knocks it right down the center. And he gets his par. Here's Devin putting for par. Mike is also putting for par. So that's pars for the group, as there's no change. As we move on to basket 5, this is a par 3, 230 feet. This is a newer hole to the course than what we've seen in previous years. Hole 5 used to end up playing alongside a creek. They've moved to a newer part of the park for hole 5. And this is a much different hole. This is a hole, as you see where Mike was throwing. The basket has an uphill elevation off to the right, and it's on the side of a hill. And Dylan plays that nicely with that sidearm shot. That's where you're looking to go. Here's Mitch with his first shot. He's going with a backhand. Gets a nice turn on that. That looks like that's going to get up the hill for him. And it gets knocked down at the end, though. Here is Mike Carmen with his first throw. Mike is also going to get very bottom of that hill. We'll be looking at a birdie from there. Here's Devin with his first shot, also going with a sidearm. Mike's in a tough spot. He has all them trees in front of him, beyond him in the basket. He just lays up. We'll have to see if that stays up on the hill or not.
Hopefully it's on the flat spot.
So there's Devin going for birdie. He's got a tough challenge here. He's got to make it between those trees. And he holds that line very nicely. So that is the first birdie of the round for the group. Here's Mitch putting for birdie as well. He just misses. Carmen is also putting for birdie.
Yeah,
He makes it.
Mike.
So 2 birdies so far in this basket. Dylan just does not get that high enough. It's going to roll away on him. He's going to have to have a further putt than what he had before. Nice. Mike makes a fantastic putt to save par.
Is it in?
Comes out of our vantage point. That was a blind putt. That was amazing. So with that birdie, Devin is back on top again by 1 stroke with a 57 over Mike and Dylan. We're moving on to basket 6. This is a par 3, 365 feet. This is a new tee position than we're used to seeing. This one is off to the left. So this becomes a much different challenge here. Devin didn't get the amount of turn he was looking for out of his drive. Here's Mike, his drive. He's going to get a nice amount of turn off that. And Mitch, he gets a nice amount of turn as well. But that fades out at the end on him and hits a tree. Here's Dylan. Once again going with the sidearm shot. Looks like he just doesn't get the amount of turn he was looking to get. He may let go of that early, but he got through that gap. He got very sneaky with that drive. Mike is just going to throw one out there and lay up to the basket. That looked effortless. And Mitch is also going to do the same thing. It's a much different dynamic with this tee pad than the traditional tee pad. This is more of a sidearm turnover shot, friendly from the tee. Here's Mike with his second shot.
Oh, yeah.
And he almost had it. It was just a little short. Here's Dylan with his second shot. Now Dylan is shooting for par, and he makes it. And so, save for Mitch, we had pars around with the other 4 players. Moving on to basket 7, this is a par 3, 313 feet. This is the pond hole. This is a shot where generally you want to keep it low as you cross the pond. You don't want to hit any of that hanging vegetation up above. It'll knock your disc down into the pond. Mike keeps it low, and he plays that perfectly. Here's Devin's drive. He gets that a little high. It's not coming down. Came down too soon. And there's you see what happens when your disc gets too high. It will get knocked back, and we'll go into the pond. Here's Mike with his drive. Mike also played that perfectly. A really nice amount of turn with that. And here's Dylan with his drive. He's once again going with the sidearm. And he shoots that gap very nicely. And here's Mitch's drive. And he also hits that gap. So Devin is playing the penalty shot, penalty stroke, and he makes it.
I would have played that.
So playing from the drop zone with the penalty, he makes the putt. Here's Mitch with his second shot. There's Mike putting for deuce, and that just chains out on him. Just did not hit the chains with enough force to stay in. Here's Dylan's second shot. He just misses it to the right. It's going to roll away on him. He's got to be careful. If that comes to the left, it might get stuck behind those trees, and it does. So he doesn't have a lot of options here. He can play around the trees, or he could be really gutsy and go through the middle. See what he does. And he plays through the middle, but it's too tall. That's a shame. As Mitch putts out. Mitch. So Devin, Mike, and Mitch all par. And Dylan has to take a bogey. As we move on to basket 8, this is a par 3 at 302 feet. This is a right-hand, backhand friendly layout. As we see Devin's drive, he hangs that out nice, long enough. You want to keep a straight line for about 200 feet, and then you want the hyzer out, as you see Mike's drive is doing. He got knocked down a little early, but that was almost perfectly. That's the line you want to hit. And here's Mitch's drive. Mitch is going to go too deep, get knocked off a tree. But he gets good distance in spite of that. And here's Dylan going to the backhand on this start. He got through very nicely. Have to be careful as you approach here, as the basket is at the top of has a steep slope on either side. And like Carmen just lays up. Looks like he's on top of the hill. You want to be careful not to go too far, because you'll go down on the other side and you'll be on the bottom of the hill on the other side of the basket. As we see Mitch, that looks like what's going to happen to Mitch. Here's Devin. He's just at the bottom of the hill. And he knocks it down. That is birdie number 2 for Devin for the round. And here's Dylan shooting for birdie as well. And Dylan makes it. And that is Dylan's first birdie of the round. Now we have Mike putting for par. So Devin picks up another stroke on both Dylan and Mike, so he's back to being 2 strokes ahead of each of them. We're moving on to basket 9. This is a par 4, 538 feet. This is the first of 3 par 4 layouts on the course. And so you see Devin's drive. The line they want to hit is they want to
Very nice.
Yep.
One.
pretty much go in the same direction you saw Devin just go, but you want to turn it, have it turn further out. It's more of a sidearm friendly layout here as well. It's definitely for right hand turnover shots. And Dylan, it gets a nice distance, but he's fading out, and he's in heavy rough where he is. So as you make your disc off to the right, you just have to, as you approach, you have to be careful. There's a little grove of trees protecting the basket. As we see Mike Carmen's drive. Mike gets a nice amount of turn. He's on the edge of the fairway. And it looks like Mike Moser is now setting up again with a roller. He's going with a sky roller. See if this stands up for him. And that's taking him out in the direction you want to go. Just short of that little grove of trees that's protecting the basket. Here's Mitch with his drive. And that's just gliding out there. It's going to stall out and go left on him. But it stays out of the rough, which is a good thing. He's going to go with a sidearm to approach. He's going to not keep it low enough, but looks as though that may put him close enough. He could be in putting position from there. Here's Mike Carmen going with his second shot. He's going with a sidearm. He looks like he's going to hit that gap to the left of that tree. He hits that perfectly, but it gets a little too low. He doesn't get the skip he's looking for with it. And now we're on to Devin with his second shot. Mike is approaching. And that should put him close where he can putt. And Mitch just gets to go a little too far to the right as he misses. And Mike picks up his first birdie of the round. And as you see, Devin now has a 3-stroke lead over Mike and a 4-stroke lead over Dylan. We're moving on to basket 10. This is a par 4, 489 feet. Okay, this layout is known as Heart Attack Hill. You are looking to have a shot that, a right-hand shot, a right-hand backhand shot that just carries you over towards that dirt path you see that leads you up the hill. From there, you just want to kind of come up and with a shot that'll just get you up the hill. Be careful as you go up the hill. You don't want to have your disc roll away. It's a very steep embankment here, as we'll see as they play on. And Mike gets a little too much turn. Goes out into that vegetation off to the right, so he's going to be in some heavy rough for a second shot. And we see Mitch with his drive. He looks like he let go a little early, but worked out a very nice placement for him. He looks like he's right in the middle of the fairway. And he has a really excellent second shot. So at this point, all he needs is a safe approach shot, and he could get his par. As Mike, with a very powerful approach, puts that up the hill. He is in putting position with that. As we see Devin, probably the best shot out of the group. As Devin powers one. And he just doesn't get up that little embankment like he'd like to. As that's where the basket is sitting. There's a small embankment. Have to be careful of rollaways as you approach.
I think that.
Here's Mike for par. He's looking straight across at the basket. He takes a safe approach, or putt rather. He didn't want to do anything too risky. He didn't want to risk it running down the hill. As Devin misses his putt. Mike's looking for a second birdie, and he makes it. So with that, Mike is going to pick up a stroke and just be one stroke behind Devin. Devin with a 72, Mike with a 73. As we move on to basket 11, this is the end of the front nine of the layout the players are playing. This is a par 3, 420 feet. This is a shot you just need to throw it out there with the right hand, hold its line, and just get that right amount of hyzer at the very end. And it looks like that worked for Mike.
Not the shot I'm trying to throw.
He may have let that come in a little too much fade too soon. Devin looked like he got a little more turn than he was looking for, but the hyzer looked like it's working for him, the angle he got. Here's Dylan with his first shot. And Dylan gets kicked back onto the fairway after hitting a tree. Here's Mitch's drive.
That's how you want to throw. Yep, good looking shot.
And here is Mike Carmen. Mike with a very high hyzer shot. Mike's the furthest out. He's just going to approach. And here's Dylan after getting kicked back out onto the fairway. It's going to be a little low. Here's Mike putting for 2. And he makes it. That is Mike's third birdie of the round. I'm sorry, that's actually Mike's second birdie of the round.
Nice. Woo! What? I know.
And now we're tied up again with Mike and Devin. We're going to go to a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
We finally bought a place.
You seriously have enough saved to do that?
We've been putting a little aside each month.
So at the end of the month, we have nothing left to save. How is my account overdrawn?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
And we're back, and we're at basket 12. This is a par 3, 294 feet. As we have Mike with his drive. He's going to throw a shot with a lot of turn, a hyzer shot. And looks like it's going to work nicely for him. Here's Mitch with his drive.
Direct line.
Here's Devin with his drive. And that's going to work very nicely for him. This layout plays a lot like the last basket that we played to hole 11. It's just going to throw as straight a shot as you can with a nice amount of hyzer at the end so you can play up to the basket. Dylan looks like he may have the best shot in the group, save for that little kick at the end that pushed him back out on the fairway once again. We saw that happen on basket 11. Here's Mike Carmen with his drive. He's going to get a nice amount of turn. And it looks like that's going to skip right in towards the basket for him. Here's Mitch. He's the furthest out. And it just comes up a little short for him. Devin overplayed the basket. He's playing back. And he just chains out to the left. Here's Mike hunting for birdie. And again, it just doesn't hit the chains hard enough and it bounces out. So birdies for Dylan and Mike Carmen. Everybody else is with shooting a par. As we move on to basket 13, this is a par 3 rather, 438 feet. This is a downhill shot. Just want to show you something out here that's going to go relatively straight and just glide its way down the fairway to the basket. And
Wow.
Dylan threw that about right. It's going to hyzer out a little bit at the end, but he's going to get kicked back out once again on the fairway, but this time it's a good thing. As we see Mike Carmen with his drive. And that's going to get a nice amount of turn for him. See if that comes back. And it does. It's a little short on distance, but that was thrown perfectly. Here's Mike with his drive. That does not straighten out enough. It's going to hyzer out. It's going to go off the fairway. Here's Devin with his drive.
Nice follow through. What water?
And that's going to go very nicely.
Yeah.
He's in putting position from that spot. Here's Mitch with his drive.
Ah, look at this.
That's a right, nice turn with that. That's just going to glide right on down. He's right next to Devin. Here's Mike. He's playing out of the rough here. And he's just going to lay up. He catches some vegetation, but it still doesn't keep him from getting under the basket for his par. Here's Mike Carmen putting for his deuce. And he makes it. That was an incredible shot. It just got over the rim. Here's Devin also putting for 2. And he makes it. That's Devin's 4th birdie of the round. Here's Mitch with his 2nd shot. Mitch also gets a birdie. That's his 2nd of the round.
Left side's kind on that basket.
And Dylan records his 3rd birdie of the round. So Devin's 1 stroke ahead of Mike. As we move on to basket 14, this is a par 3, 336 feet. This is a very tight shot, very tight fairway with those trees you can see. Dylan's going to go with a forearm roller. You have to be careful. There is out of bounds just up ahead. He's getting dangerously close to that out of bounds. There's a walking path, which you cannot have. You cannot go into it. It's out of bounds. This is Mike Carmen with his drive. He's going to get that very high in the air, and he's going to get struck down some of those trees up the fairway. Here's Devin with his 1st shot. And Devin's going to get knocked down early. Here's Mitch with his 1st shot. Here's Mike with his drive. He's going to throw that perfectly right down the middle with a nice amount of hyzer at the end.
Thank you.
Here's Devin playing out of the rough.
Great shot, Devin.
Perfect shot. He just kept that low, and he got a great amount of skip at the end. Here's Mike laying up. That's just going to sit down. Dylan did go out of bounds. He's playing back for his 3rd shot with the penalty stroke. He just gets out a little low. Here's Mitch shooting for birdie. Here's Mike also shooting for birdie. And it just does not stay in. Okay, now we're moving on to basket 15. This is a par 3, 196 feet. This is definitely one of the more shorter layouts on the course. Mike Carmen's going with a putter off the tee. He threads that perfectly through that gap. Devin is going to take much the same route.
She's just got a little too much bite to her.
We'll see. That may have carried him beyond the basket. Here's Mitch with his drive. And Mitch looked like he was trying to play the same route that the other two did, but he just did not hit that line. Here's Mike. Mike also goes through that same route, but he gets it up high. But that does drop for him, so we'll see how close he is to the basket. As we see Dylan with his first drive. He also hits that route perfectly. So we see Dylan shooting for a birdie. He went past the basket a little bit. And that stays in perfectly. That's fourth birdie for Dylan. Here's Mike Carmen. Mike Carmen also records his fourth birdie of the round. Yeah, Devin going for his fifth birdie of the round, and he makes it. Well, save for Mitch, everybody records a birdie. It's still a one-stroke difference between Mike and Devin as we move to basket 16. This is a par 3, 282 feet. So this is a sidearm right-hand turnover shot friendly layout. As we see Mike Carmen's going with a turnover shot. It's going to fade out on him at the end. It's just not going to get as much turn as they would have liked to have had. Devin puts a very powerful shot, and that turns over and it does not come back, but it does strike a tree. We'll just have to see where that leaves him as far as proximity to the basket is concerned. Here's Mike Moser with his drive. He's going to get a nice amount of turn, but he does kick off some sort of vegetation down the fairway. Looked like a small branch that knocked his disc in the opposite direction. Dylan's going with a sidearm. He gets way too much turn. He gets knocked down early. And here's Mitch. Mitch looked like he grip locked that a little bit. Had a late release. Looks like he's going with a turnover shot. This is going to be a tough hole to play through. But he goes through that little gap and looks like he'll have a good shot at getting a par from that spot. Here's Dylan with his approach shot. He's also going with a turnover, and that gets him relatively close to the basket. Mike lays up. Mike Carmen's shooting for birdie. And that just went left on him. Here's Devin also shooting for birdie, and he makes it. And that is the sixth birdie of the round for Devin. He gets back a two-stroke lead over Mike with that birdie. Here's Dylan shooting for par. And once again, Devin does have a two-stroke lead back over Mike. As we move on to basket 17, this is a par 3, 331 feet. So this is a slightly uphill shot. Ideally, players with a right-handed throwing right-handed want to go with a turnover shot or a sidearm. As you see Devin going with a turnover shot, he kept that nice and low. Mike is also going with a turnover shot here. But he lets that go a little early. We'll see if that fades back for him. The vegetation gets in the way of our view, so we can't really see where that ended up. And Mike goes with a backhand shot.
Ginger on your plant.
There's Dylan. He's going with a sidearm shot again. And he keeps that low, but it looks like he didn't get enough distance. But it did kick around down there, so we'll see if that gave him some forward progress to get closer to the basket. And here's Mitch with his drive. Mitch gets one that's up rather high, but doesn't get knocked down or pushed back to the fairway with any of that vegetation, so that's a good thing. And here's Mike with his second shot. And he's laying up to the basket. Okay, and we still have a two-stroke lead between Devin and Mike. Dylan records his fifth birdie of the round as we move on to basket 18. This is a par 4, the last par 4 in the layout. It's 528 feet. This is a layout where players have 2 out-of-bounds waterways to be concerned with on this layout. To start out, you're generally looking to go with a placement shot, just something to get you in the center of the fairway so you can play over the creek.
Very nice.
You don't want to go too deep. You don't want to go too far. You want to just, this is a placement shot. It's about 150 feet and have it hyzer out. As you see Mike just did. Just something to get you in the middle of the fairway so you're looking at the creek, you can just play over it. Mike may have went a little too deep. We'll have to see where that put him. Mitch is going with a sidearm shot. Let's see how that skips for him. He doesn't get much of a skip, but that is a good placement shot. We see Dylan with his second shot. Off, now a little gap to the left. That's where he's looking to play through, and now playing over the creek. Looks like he got knocked down though. Here's a better view. Dylan's trying to get over the creek. He also gets knocked down. You can see the water, little rapids from the creek just up ahead, that ending in that shot. Here's Devin with his second shot. And Devin makes it through, but he does get knocked down at the end. We'll have to see if he's safe. Players are indicating that he's safe, so. Here's Mike Carmen with his approach shot. He has one tree to beat. And it does appear, can't tell if he's safe or not. This is a tricky layout as you approach the water because there's trees on the other side of the water that will knock your disc back into the water. Mitch is playing back from the edge. And that approach shot works nicely for him. Here's Devin with his third throw. And he'll make his par from there. So Mike Moser records a birdie and keeps this. This is a one-stroke race at this point between Devin and Mike. We're moving on to basket 1. It's a par 3, 331 feet. So Mike recorded his 4th birdie on that last hole. And here's Dylan with his drive. That has a little too much from him at the end. Have to be careful. There's a creek off to the left. Mike goes with a backhand roll, a sky roller. Let's see if that flips over for him. And he's just going to go up against that little elevation there. It's Devin with his first drive.
There's a big hill there.
Devin shoots for birdie, but he misses. So at this point, if Mike can make a birdie, Mike could tie this. I have to say, Mike. So this could tie everything up here if Mike makes this putt. Devin, unfortunately, his putt was a little too tall, and it did not. It was a little too tall and bounced off. And Mike makes the putt, so we have a tie now for first place. As Devin has a drop-in putt for par, as Mike gets his birdie. Mike's fifth birdie of the round. As we move on to our last hole, this is basket 2, par 3, 272 feet. This is a relatively straight shot. Ideally, you do want to get a little bit of turn on this. And Mike just gets it at the end, but it does fade out on him, so he's going to have a challenging putt. You have Dylan on the tee. Dylan's going with a sidearm shot once again. Dylan gets that a little high, and he gets knocked off. Held up by some vegetation up high. Here's Devin. He's going with a backhand turnover shot here. And he turns that over nicely. And that should give him a really good shot at a birdie here. Here's Mike with his first throw. He gets that very high in the air. Makes contact with some of that vegetation that holds him up a little bit. Here's Mitch going with the backhand. Mitch turned that over nicely, but it doesn't fade enough at the end, so. Mike Carmen.
Not hungry.
So here's Mike putting for birdie, depending upon where Devin is. Okay. This really puts the pressure on Devin now. But Devin should be closer to the basket than Mike, we'll see. And here's Devin. He doesn't look much closer to the basket. Devin needs this to keep the tie. And it just stays in. It was moving around just a little bit once it got in the cage. Seemed like it might have hopped out on him, but it did stay in. So we're going to a playoff here in Men's Open.
We've got 1, maybe 3 more shots.
Okay, Devin and Mike both finished with 99s. So we're going to a playoff. Please don't go away. We'll be right back for this playoff. There we have we're already in the midst of the playoff. Mike is about where he was on the last time he played this hole, and he misses it this time. Let's see where Devin is now. Devin is in a much better spot than he was during the round. He can win this with this putt, and he does. So one-hole playoff. And Devin wins the playoff over Mike. Please don't go away. We'll be right back. And there you have it, an amazing finish by Devin Frederick. Devin started the round with a 2-stroke lead, and then throughout the round, Mike Moser just kept right at his heels, and Devin ended up giving back the lead. Some of the miscues during the round, he had come up short. He had some drives that got cut short early on the some of the layouts, and Mike couldn't capitalize as much as he would have liked to. Mike had some chain outs, but what all it came down to is basket one at the end of the round, where Mike was just one stroke behind, and Devin came up short with a high putt, and Mike capitalized to tie it. Came down to a one-hole playoff where almost the same position that Mike had in the first round, putting from the same spot. Unfortunately, could not make the putt. But Devin had a much closer lie in the playoff, and he managed to make that putt and win the tournament. Congratulations to Devin. That wraps it up for this month's edition of Disc Golf Monthly. Thank you for joining us. Join us next month for another edition of Disc Golf Monthly. Disc Golf Monthly, the show that takes you one step closer to the sport of disc golf.